Hey there, my name is Przemek and this is the labels feature. This time we talk about Noctivagant or Noctivagant label, and this is part 1 of this feature. Currently I have some, let's say, logistical inconveniences that don't let me to make videos in 100% comfort, so I decided to split this video to two shorter ones. This is part 1 of Noctivagant feature, and part 2 will be posted in a couple of weeks, I think, because those logistic difficulties will last about 2 or 3 weeks. Anyway, Noctivagant, the label based in New Mexico. It's a kind of interesting label because it's not a kind of major, dark ambient major like Cryo Chamber or Cyclic Low, but it's also not kind of ephemeric label that pops up out of nowhere, releases 1, 2, 3, 5 albums and disappears. They are working since 2011, if I'm not mistaken. They have released over 100 albums so far, some of them in digital form only, some of them on CDRs, and I think they are just doing their job. They're not looking back on other albums, and they are pretty good at what they do. Anyway, today we'll look at 3 albums from Noctivagant in no particular chronological order. In part 2 I will also talk about another 3 or 4 albums, and today we'll start with this one, Astrotheurgy, by a project with a peculiar name, Electronicdeathblackdogs. I've already reviewed one album of the project on the channel. It was Hinterland from 2023, released by Winterlight label. And Astrotheurgy is an album released this year in March, and this is something quite different from airy and organic Hinterland. A few words about the concept. Astrotheurgy is a practice that utilizes the fixed stars in astrology and mysticism to gain insight, guidance and spiritual connection. The fixed stars, as opposed to the wandering planets, are stars whose positions in the sky do not change significantly over time from our perspective on Earth. The album looks like this, and you can read more about the concept here. And what's interesting about this label is that on many albums, not all of them, but I think on most of them, these concepts are thoroughly explained. You don't have to guess anything. You know exactly what the musician had in mind while recording or creating this or that particular album. And in this one, Roddy Graham, a Scout, I don't know, Scout? Roddy is of Scottish nationality, let's say it like that. And as I mentioned earlier, this time he deals with the depth of cosmos. I think it's a darker album than Hinterland, and certainly denser in sound. All compositions consist of several interwoven layers of drones, sometimes sounding like some humming spaceship engines. There are also some gloomy pulsations here and there, sometimes more atmospheric passages. I think Lastmore is a good point of reference here, especially the album The Place Where Black Stars Hang. maybe a little bit of innate, like the album Aldebaran. Although Astrotheurgy is more, how to say it, condensed and focused. This album is a really suggestive journey into the stars, dying stars, journey from which there is no return. You know, it's a very solid piece of dark ambient. I'm not sure if I like it more than Hinterland or less. It's more or less the same level. For me, depending on the mood, if I prefer something more cosmic, this one is better for that moment. If I prefer something, you know, more natural, Hinterland is better. But also Electronicdeathblackdogs released a few more albums. I will discuss another one in the Noctivagant feature part 2 in a couple of weeks. Okay, another album I would like to say a few words about is this one, Wide Open Wings, Wingswork. It's an interesting thing because although the album was released at the end of 2023, the music was composed between 2001 and 2003, and as it is written right here, using the software that was available at that time. This is, I think, the only release of this Romanian project, but the album itself was released by Noctivagant kind of together with another project by Lucian Olteanu, the person behind this album. The album by the project Tronul Astruns. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, but again, about that album I will talk about in a second part of Noctivagant feature. And this one, this is also written. It's also written right here that the music on this album is inspired by the works of such projects like Duke, or rather DVKEE. I don't know this project. Ice Ages, Arcana, Raison d'Être, Mortis, Penitent, even Burzum. And you know, back then, 20-25 years ago, such references would give shivers down my spine. Speaking of Penitent, Lucian has worked with Karsten Hamre on several projects. That's, you know, by the way. But back to the music, to the album. Today, those names that are the inspirations for the project doesn't really arouse much emotions in me, maybe apart from Raison d'Être, obviously. And let me tell you this, think of the years when this material was created, I mean 2001 to 2003, and think of the names I mentioned as inspiration, and now imagine how such music could sound like. I'm sure that what will be born in your head will be very close to what we eventually got, because this is music absolutely of its time, of that time 20 years ago, created to the best of technical possibilities and referring to then popular forms of underground electronic music. We have like dungeon synth melodies, you know, sound and solemnity straight from synthetic quasi neoclassical, and all sprinkled with a pinch of dark wave. And just as I say, there are a lot of melodies and sound imagery straight from dungeons and you know, covers, you know, like those forests and castles and this kind of stuff. And let's be honest, today this music is quite old-fashioned, not to say outdated. The orchestrations sound artificial and plastic, and the sound lacks space and organicity. But then again, take into account the years of creation of that album. It was often played that way back then, you know, on many albums. And I know that today such music is generally coming back to to its glory. Even Dungeon Synth has never been so popular as it is now, even in you know, circles seemingly distant from the electronic underground. You know, there are even the hybrids of dungeon synth and rap. You know, maybe it's interesting and inspiring. I don't know, but it's a phenomenon that I don't fully understand. That being said, I perfectly understand that Wingswork can find its fans even today. Today probably even more that it could have, like for example 10 years ago. Me personally, I won't be coming back to this album, but if you're one of those people who are attracted to such old school neoclassics or quasi neoclassics, synths that build a mysterious atmosphere straight from fantasy RPG games, you can check out Wingswork and perhaps find something for yourself. And the third one, Hiemis, Malleus, Maleficarum. And this album, on the other hand, this one I like very much. Hiemis is a Spanish project specializing in ritual forms of dark ambient, often referring to ancient pagan traditions. And Malleus Maleficarum is his last album from 2023. And Malleus Maleficarum, as you probably know, is the title of a medieval book of on witchcraft, the infamous book which became the kind of guide for the Inquisition in fighting with witchcraft. It's also the title of the debut album of Pestilence, one of my favorite death metal bands, but it's a different story. This is how the album looks like. Again, the cover. The inside there are also lyrics in Latin. All are the passages from the book, and as you can see, there's so much text explaining the concept that it needs an additional insert. So a lot of reading apart from listening. And yeah, right from the beginning, the first few seconds where we hear flies buzzing, probably over some corpse, or maybe they are a harbinger of an approaching dark force, as flies are often want to do so. The album draws you to its gloomy medieval world, the Black Death, those times, the witch hunt, Dark Ages. When you listen to this album, you can't shake the feeling that this description of the times, Dark Ages, couldn't be more appropriate. This guy has a talent for creating really spooky and eerie atmosphere, but without feeling, cheap. There's not even a moment of respite or relief or hope here. Everything here has a stench of death and decay. Rotting corpses, burning witches, lunatic, sadistic inquisitors. Sometimes there are elegiac passages, like which are like a kind of reflection on women wrongly sentenced to death, such as the excellent track Fedus, which reminds me a bit of early Desideri Marginis. But as a whole, this album makes you think about how humanity managed to get out of this medieval abyss and survive, instead of getting over with and dying for good. Also, we have some field recordings here, in addition to those flies I mentioned. There are also howls, howling, the sounds of night forest, also the woman screaming in agony. Okay, it's not a field recordings, just the samples. At least I hope so. This kind of stuff. And Juan Carlos sometimes also implements noisier fragments, like the track Invocatio et Demonium, which is also like death industrial, a little bit reminding me maybe of Megaptera. Here and there, I also hear a kind of distorted guitar, but I don't know if it's a real guitar or some computer effect. And also I have to mention the finale of the album, Confessio, which kind of abandons horror in favor of tragedy, the tragedy of these poor women, victims of religious fanaticism, the woman who died in vain. Malleus, Maleficarum is nothing new in the dark ambient world, but this album absorbs you and arouses anxiety like just a few albums in this genre are able to do today. Today. Okay, that's it. It was the first part of Noctivagant feature. As I said at the beginning, the part 2 will be posted in mid-August, maybe second half of August, something like that, I hope. Thanks for watching and see you soon.